Everybody, welcome to the Train for That podcast, where we kind of get to the bottom of why people train, what got them to where they are, some advice they have for people who are trying to do similar stuff, or just kind of training in general.
Yeah.
And training doesn't necessarily be physical. It could be emotional. It could be soul-wise. And speaking of soul-wise, I have Grant, Island Ninja.
Let's get in there.
I'm not going to do this middle name, but I'll do the last name, McCartney.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. If you want to know his middle name, you'll have to find him on social media, follow him
in person,
and send him in person as well.
I will not be DMing out my middle name. You
No.
have to come talk to me and say, hey, Grant.
Yeah.
I heard you on the podcast.
Yep.
What's your middle name?
Yes, and then he'll tell you. It'll be a fantastic experience for all, and everyone will gain something from it. So I've known Grant only known him for a few months now. And I don't know his full story. I do know that he's an amazing athlete, just kind of all around. I literally just watched him do a million 360 flip double unders attempts. So like his commitment to the game is high. We'll get into the 360 flip double under attempt, but I kind of want to hear like where did you start all this? Like, what is your physicality background? What's your background? Where are you from? Like, just start at like, I started doing physical stuff here and where that kind of rolled into.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was fortunate. My family, very athletic family. My dad played in the professional football league, so he was in the Falcons and the Rams, and he didn't stop playing when he had me. Like, he wasn't like in the pros, and I was like, "Go, Dad!" But like, my dad's super fit in his time, and then. And I see that the older I get, that I'm like, that was a really cool thing. Like, you know, you see it's your dad and you're like, you know, my dad gets older and things change and not as healthy as it was. And you're like, Dad, when you eat better and blah, blah. And I'm like, you were at a peak age. Like you know, when I was at 30, when you were 33, you were playing the pros, you know? Yeah. So I had a lot of athletics around upbringing. We played everything. I mean, I loved playing sports, kept me out of trouble. So I was playing 2-3 sports at a time, and soccer, football, baseball, tennis, diving. And I mean, I was good at them all, but I mean, I played everything. I actually ended up playing rugby in college and played in high school too. And I was also a sponsored skateboarder for like 15 years.
Was that the first thing you kind of went like legit in, like in terms of making that?
Yeah.
That like someone external was like validated your ability and was like, you're sponsored now. Like, was it skating?
Skating was dope. I was young when I got sponsored. I wasn't like.
How old?
I remember my first sponsor when I was, the end of middle school, getting into high school. Yeah. And then we were filming and doing that. But I was also like, you know, I was playing track. What?
You can play track. It's like a game, but you just run.
This game sucks. I just, you know, little things like getting to go to state in sports kind of was like that little, you're doing pretty good, you know? And then college, my freshman year, just getting a bunch of accolades my freshman year on the A-side team. And I was like, oh man, this is pretty good, you know? And I just had those like pretty good moments, but I hit a lot of game winner shots in basketball, you know? And that was really cool. I also lost it for us in a lot of games too. Baseball in particular, I wasn't any really good at baseball. My dad loves to tell that story though. Just like I slid into home in the state finals and they tagged me out right as I slid in, and like my whole team started crying because we're kids, you know. Yeah. I didn't know, and I was like, Dad, you see that? I could have won it for us. And he was like, I'll always remember that attitude. Just, you could have won it for us is all you were thinking. You weren't like, oh my gosh, I got out and we lost. You were like, I almost won it. And so
that's how your dad frames it when you talk to him about
100%.
it? So he's like stoked what your attitude was.
I didn't realize it until he told me that story.
And he was stoked on it.
He was so stoked on it.
That's so cool. So he supported the fact that it was more just like, dude, my son is doing it right.
My dad's a legend.
That's pretty cool, man.
And my dad didn't know his dad until he was like in his 30s. And I'm like, how can you be such a good father and not know yours? Like, it's a real honest thing I've been trying to figure out. And he's a great father. He just he's always been there. Yeah. And like, I hold on to that in my mind. Like, he will always be there, knowing that time. I mean, that's what my story has kind of been in the last 6 years ago, and why I got in Ninja Warrior was most of my family passed away. And I know that he won't always be there. Right. And like, I I'm thankful. I'm thankful that he's been such a good father.
Yeah. It sounds like he's been proud of you since you lost.
Oh, yeah. He's the man.
Like, I'm sure you've reflected on it, but it's like none of the things you do matter to him as much as the time you slid in and lost.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, man. Like, that's huge.
I hope that he sees in that he's done well. More than he thinks like, oh man, my son's awesome or whatever. I want him to know that he's done well as a father.
Yeah. I mean, he can listen to that and hear that. That's cool, man.
I hope you hear this, Dad.
Yeah.
I love you.
I'm going to make sure that I figure out a way to send it to him. I'm going to use your middle name, search you up on some index, and figure out a way to get it to him. Just that soundbite.
I'll call him and tell him after this too.
Perfect. So that drove you to kind of push and get into Ninja Warrior. And Ninja Warrior, like, when I think Ninja Warrior, I think like scrawny little climber, and you're a unit. Like,
Thanks,
you're a big boy, and
definitely heavy for the group.
You are like, what are your? How tall are you?
I'm 6'2", 205. Average guy is probably 5'9", 150.
Yeah, that's a 55-pound difference.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like
a lot.
That's not.
Yeah.
And I can see the length being a good thing for like reach and
Those
grab
times
and
it's
like
cool.
But I can see for most of the times you're like, I'm having to carry my 205-pound butt around all the stuff that these little like goobers. Like, because I thought I should do it because I was a small guy, like, and I had really good grip strength, and I was like, yeah, this will be fun.
Crush, yeah,
but then
you probably would crush too.
Not anymore. I no way. Too thick, too weak. But
you're definitely a nugget, and that's for sure wouldn't help you. Yeah. But it was definitely so. The whole deal was I watched the show in Japan. It used to be on a network called G4, and I watched it as a kid, and I was like, oh, this is dope. And I actually made this weird list of things I always said I was going to do, and I just never really put it into action. I just knew, like, I wanted to do the Running the Bulls in Spain. I wanted to swim under ice. I wanted to do, I had this list. I wanted to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show. I wanted to, like, just these weird things that I had always packed in my brain but never written down. And there was a year where my mom passed. A couple months later, my grandmother, then my great-grandmother, my dad's mom, and my stepdad in this, like, chain of events. And I just realized, like, life's really short. Like, anything can happen. And I just took that list of things and started just kind of going at it. And I don't know why these things were there. Like, I don't know. Since I was a kid, I've always wanted to go to Spain and run in front of these pools. Like, it's stupid. Then I went and did it. And I was like, this is ignorant. Why did I ever want to do this? I'm glad I'm alive. And, but this is stupid. And did that, and I went with 10,000. This I tried a couple of years ago to swim under ice in Alaska, but it was like negative something degrees, and we
That's generally how ice works.
Yeah. It was so cold, and we cut through like 4 feet of ice to try, and I didn't realize like the ice where you're level with the ice is cold, but when you get under, it drops like immediately colder, and your brain freezes. So we did a big second try with 10,000, and that's up online. You guys can watch that. It was like we did it and made that happen, and just kind of started chipping away at all these things. And on that list was doing Ninja Warrior. So I just applied, and that was 7 years ago. I did really well and got to do that. I mean, I've done it every year since. I've done all their spin-off shows. I've gotten to go and do it internationally. We're going to do German Ninja Warrior, their celebrity edition. Ended up winning out there, and that all kind of spun into other TV. And then I got to be on the Ellen show, which was, again, some of the weird things. Yeah. It's like all this weird things. You wrote it down,
you're like, I'm going to go ahead and predict my future.
Yeah.
And then you made it happen.
Yeah. And then it just started happening. And in some ways it was, in my mind, too, that there was blessings in it, too, to remind me that, like, life's still good, because it didn't feel good for a long time. There was right when everyone was passing away that I just thought, this is forever how I'm going to feel every day. And I only know pain and hurt and sadness. And I would wake up and I would think, I am so unhappy.
Right.
And it was true. Yeah. And I'm not that person. I'm such a happy person.
Right.
No one knows that, like, except for me, how joyful I am. And it was like, man, that's all I thought.
But those feelings aren't, I mean, I've recently experienced that. My whole life, super joyous, same sort of deal. But I recently experienced it. It's not logical. You know, it's not like, as a person who's hyper rational myself and can think through it all and blah, 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 and like always your brain's moving a million miles. Yeah. There's not like a logical path that you can take to be like, I'm unhappy now and here's the reason. Yeah. And I feel this way and let me just think my way out of it. Like there's some times where it just gets to the point where you can't, like it's not wild. A rational. So when you were there and you kind of, was that when you started to work your way through your list, or what brought you out of it to like get?
I noticed the list it wasn't like I was like, I'm so sad, I need to do something. And maybe it's just because I've always kind of had that mentality to do that it fit and ended up working, because it was just part of it. Like I would be really upset when I woke up. I would cry in my sleep. I didn't know you could do that. I would wake up like, when you cry real hard and your eyes are dry and you feel tired. Yeah. I'd wake up like that. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Now I get it too. Grief is real. And I was loved so well by such a big family. I mean, I knew my great grandmother outlived my mom and my grandmother. Yeah. Like I knew a big family for a long time. So I hurt to the capacity I was loved. Right. So it was deep, right? And so I was...
I've never heard that before. I've hurt to the capacity that I was loved.
Yeah.
That's a good one. You write that down? Jot that thing down.
All right. Someone write that down for me.
That's heavy. I'm going to take that and run with it.
Well, I always thought about that. I was like, I mean, there was a time where, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I won't be able to get it all out. But there was a time where I realized how bad it was, because my mom had just passed and my grandmother had her cancer, and when her daughter passed, I could tell she had given up the fight for that. And I was going into a restaurant and I was walking across the street, and I remember my heart was starting to hurt, like something, there's pain in my chest, and now I realized, am I having a heart attack? And I laid down in the middle of the road, and no one was there, and no one knew what was going on. I just laid there and I thought, I'm having a heart attack, and I thought, no, I'm not having a heart attack. My heart hurts. Yeah. Someone I loved is gone. Yeah. It hurt, like actually in my heart. And that's why I thought, this is weird. Like maybe we hurt in this thing, and maybe over time we've learned that like our heart is this weird place that pumps blood, but it also stores our feelings of love. And so why does it hurt when someone's gone? And so as I was dealing and figuring all that, right, I realized I have been loved so well. That's why it hurts. Like some people don't even know their parents, some people don't talk to them. Some people. And so I thought, man, this is a real blessing. And that one thing that was really helpful was gratitude. And then just alongside of that happened to be, I like to have goals and challenges. And so when I'd wake up, in tears, bummed, not sure how I felt, why I was so sad, I would have something. I would be like, I'm going to do a 5K, so I've got to get up and do my run. Or I got some challenge to achieve that gave me a reason to train. And, Ninja Warrior gave me a reason to train. And I was doing all kinds of weird stuff, and that's what my social media is. It's just another weird challenge I can train and work towards. That's why I like to do CrossFit now. It's different, and why I'm about to go to Italy to try to break a world record in this ninja movement. It just gives me something, and I'm not doing it because I need to feel successful. No. I'm doing it because I like to train for stuff, and I like to try, and I don't mind failing, and that helps when you're in that kind of grief that you can't put a name to, but you can feel. You're just so shook up by how you feel. Training does help. Yeah. In remembering that, like, okay, I am very sad, but I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do my workout, and that physiologically makes me feel better in some capacity. Now, does it change how sad you are? No. But also over time, grief subsides. Yeah. And open scars turn to closed scars, and then things heal over time. And so for the temporary, working out was helpful. It gave me a reason and a purpose to do something else. And I'm not saying that's the only thing. There was many other things, my faith and other things that helped me through that. But having a reason to train really helped.
Yeah. So if you met somebody who is going through a ton of grief right now, and like I know everyone's situation is different. Like you said, you had many little things. Yep. What would be the thing you would tell them if you think you could like just affect them in one way to get them on that path? Like what would be the thing you'd say? And if you don't have the answer, that's okay too. But what would be the...
Yeah, this is Just off the cuff, my first response, I'm not sure it'd be the best thing. So I can think, first off, to say, I lost so many people, and then be like, oh, my pain's worse, or it's not about worse or not. I don't know where you are or what you're going through, but if it hurts, it hurts. Yeah. And that could be you didn't get in the college you wanted, or you just lost someone you really loved, or your animal, or whatever. Yeah. Grief, pain, all of it. Instead of trying to play the game of whose is worse, to deal with your feelings in a good way is important. And the way I did it, and I would recommend, is I had a context of how God sees me. I believe in the Creator, so I believe that God loves me. And that was a start. That was a big start, because if you think that God's there to torment you and hurt you, it can spiral things. So I would wake up and I would pray and I would say, Lord, I don't understand, why I feel this way. I'm so sad. And you talk about abundant life for me, and this doesn't feel like that. And I would talk to him, and I would think of the things I was thankful for, though. And my mind easily went there, like, but I am up and I have another date and I get to eat breakfast and I love breakfast and, stuff like that. Right. Yeah. And I go to the gym and that would turn into, well, I'm still fit and I got that and that's healthy and that's wonderful. And the gratitude started to spiral, to carry through moments of real sadness. And I do think a part of that is having a training of some kind, having a physical outlet. Yeah. I would recommend. So I would say, there's a lot of things that can get you through, but something, if you're especially not into belief of any kind, try just getting to the gym and doing something, because there is a physiological feeling after training a little bit that makes you feel better.
I think even if you don't have a belief of any kind, putting a belief out there or a question out there to the universe is still a very meaningful start.
Yeah.
Throwing it out there and asking the question, even if it isn't to specifically where you were directing it.
Yeah.
And letting that come back with a resounding hollow noise, or letting that come back with the universe talking to you again. Like, that's really huge. And then moving from there into some sort of movement practice, whether it be fitness or Ninja Warrior or things along those lines. So it sounds like asking the questions and being okay with hearing no answer, but at the same time continuing to find gratitude in the small things sounds like what you're saying there. So
yeah, and I mean, if people want to know more of my story, by all means, you can probably see it. I don't know if I have videos online of my story, my life, or testimonies. A lot of times what Christians call that stuff, but like just type that in and see if it's online. I try to talk really openly and more about my faith and the concept of Christianity that I believe in, and I do think it's really helpful.
Absolutely.
I just try not to be, everyone's got it, but I'm like, there's no denying that having a construct and knowing that God loves me really helps in that time. So
do you think telling anyone they should do something and have to do something really helps with people who are on the fence?
Yeah, I guess
I don't think so, man. Whether it's fitness or whether it's parenting or whether it's belief, if you're forcing it down someone's throat, very rarely are they just going to take it. It's more along the lines of sitting and providing the example that you're doing, whether that's parenting or getting someone to choose a healthier lifestyle, and you do that fantastically. And I really appreciate you sharing the story, man. Like I'm sure we'll have you on again and we can chat further about some of the really cool stuff that you do, and seeing the way you approach the game of social media is awesome. And we can get into that another time, but you really shared some cool things to think about, and I appreciate that. So
right on,
man. Thank you for being a part of all this. And
thanks for having me, dude.
I'm looking forward to people seeing you on screen and
throwing
down in the
working
humor.
Out with you too.
Oh, it was good working out with you, and you throw some mad smack talking in there, and you back it up, and like it's been cool. So appreciate having you on, and we'll talk again next time, man.
Sick, bro.